What is up everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Welcome to another video where we finally get to take a look at the SYM ADX 300. This is the second act in the ADX play, the sub-brand created by SYM, which encompasses all of their adventure-focused scooters. We did have the ADX 125 that came out 2 years ago, which really set the bar very high for what is supposed to be what a scooter has to be the proud bearer of the ADX name. In its class, the 125, or the Husky 150 as it was called in some countries, in some Asian markets, really showed how far you can push a little 125cc scooter when you're no longer focused on just city running performance and you start focusing on long distance travel, on touring, on off-road. And you really put in the time and effort to design and build a proper machine for those tasks. Now we have the second act, the ADX 300, and probably later this year we're going to have the ADX 400, but now we're going to focus on the 300. Can the 300 live up to the high standards of the 125? Well, that's what I'm aiming to find out today. Hopefully I get a good idea of what the scooter is like. Unfortunately, this is the first unit that came into the country and it just came in today, and it doesn't have registration, it doesn't have any paperwork, has nothing. I will be riding it a little bit around the yard, but for a proper road test review you're gonna have to wait a little bit until I get my hands on one that's actually road legal. This thing still isn't road legal, but we're going to take a look at it from front wheel to back wheel as we usually do, and then we're taking for a spin around the yard. So at the front, first thing we notice is that we have a decently sized windscreen that also has some pretty solid metal mounts to it. So the aftermarket can go crazy with bigger, taller touring windscreens. I like that this thing is smoked. It's not high enough that it impedes your vision, but it really accents the scooter very well with it being smoked. Moving on down, we have the front light cluster, which we have daytime running lights plus an illuminated SYM logo up here. And then we have 4 projector lights, 2 for the low beam and 2 for the high beam. This is the low beam currently on, and if we light up all of them, we have the high beam, the low beam, and the daytime running lights. Here on the side, we have our indicators, and let's put the 4-way flashers. We have our indicators right here on the side next to the 300cc logo. They are pretty visible. They are also LED. This scooter is 100% LED, so there's no incandescent bulbs on it. I would have liked to see them just a little bit higher, but you know, looking at it, it is quite visible, and you're not gonna have any problems in traffic. Further down, we have a regular style fork, and honestly, it's not all that big, it's not all that thick. The thing is, this scooter is based on the JOYRIDE 300, the JOYRIDE from SYM, the one with the flat floor. And I can see a lot of parts from it. The casing of the fork, at least, looks very similar to the JOYRIDE. Also, the front brake disc is the same, the caliper is the same. We have a 15-inch front wheel that comes equipped with some CST off-road oriented tires. And in terms of braking, like I've said, we have a floating brake disc like the JOYRIDE 300 and the quad piston brake caliper up front. From the JOYRIDE, I know the brakes are awesome, and I'm expecting this thing to have some very, very proper brakes. It's not necessarily any heavier than the JOYRIDE, maybe just a couple of kilograms heavier. It's nudging the 200 kilogram mark, but it should have ample stopping power. Front and rear ABS and traction control, as it clearly states here. Behind the front wheel, we have our radiator, because this is a liquid-cooled engine that is very nicely protected by the front mudguard, which extends all the way down here. Moving around to the side, we get to see the silhouette of the scooter, but we have a decently sized front fairing, a little bit cut inwards to give that off-road style, that off-road look, but this is gonna take away from the wind protection. But again, this is something I cannot test today until I take it out on the open road and on the highway. We do have a glove box here, pretty decently sized. Inside the glove box you will find a USB fast charger in there. Under here we have the fuel tank. It's a 16-liter fuel tank, so it has grown from the Joyride on which it's based. And here right in the middle we have a little bit of extra strengthening of the frame. Because we now have a tunnel in the middle to accommodate the larger fuel tank, they've also added some more steel to really strengthen up the frame for when you take it off-road. We have our floorboards, decently sized. And we have our passenger foot pegs, which just like on the Cruise Sim, they pop out and are rubber covered. The seat is decently comfortable, although for the rider part it is a little bit small. It does have a pretty big passenger space, but for the rider I would have liked it maybe this backrest just a little bit further back, give some more room to the rider. We have our grab handles for the passenger, our exhaust, and our 278cc liquid-cooled single-cylinder engine, putting out about 26 horsepower and about 26 newton meters of torque. Moving around to the back, we have an exhaust system, a muffler at least, that looks like the one on the Maxim 400, and I really like it. It has a good design to it. Dual shocks on the rear as suspension. I can't see any adjustments except for preload, only preload adjustment. The front fork has no adjustment whatsoever. 14-inch wheel on the back, single brake disc on the back with a dual piston caliper. I would have liked to see a little bit more protection for all the cables here, but this one doesn't have it. We have our rear brake lights, all LED, and our turn signals right here. This is how the rear brake light looks. And this is how the rear turn signals look. And if we come to the left-hand side, we can notice the scooter comes equipped as standard with a center stand and a side stand, pretty much just like all Sims do. Now again, returning to the seat, like I've said, I would have liked to see the rider part a little bit longer. It is wide enough to be comfortable, but maybe just a little bit longer, but we'll have to see about that. We do have a pretty good backrest, although it might be a little bit narrow, but it should be comfortable. Sim usually knows what they're doing with their seats, so I'm not too worried about it. It doesn't look like their best effort, but they are pretty good with designing decent seats. And also the passenger side, I like to see the fact that it's, hear that? It's textured, so the passenger, when you're braking, doesn't slide forward and hit the rider. Looking under the seat, if you were expecting this thing to be based on the Cruise Sim, well, it's not. It's based on the Joyride. And this is where you can tell, because this is just about almost the exact same underseat storage space as on the Joyride. And what I'm seeing a little bit different is all these nubbins here, tying the underseat box to the fairings on the side, really giving the whole plastics a little bit more rigidity, and thus eliminating the sound of plastics rattling around when you go off-road. I saw this first on the ADX 125 and I really liked it, and I really like to see that they carried on with the ADX 300. But in terms of storage space, you can fit a full-size helmet in here and some other stuff here, but not a helmet because it's not tall enough. But if you really want some ginormous storage space, just put something like 45-50 liter top case on the back and be done with it. It's a decently sized storage space. The only problem is I was expecting maybe a little bit more for this size of machine. Now up front we have the same keyless system, the SYM Keyless 3.0, that comes with the fail-safe mechanism to open it up and put in a mechanical key. Mechanical key that you can find inside your key fob just by opening it right here, and you can stick this thing in, and in case you ever run out of battery, you can still be on the go. Just stick it in as a regular key. I really love this system, and I'm really glad to see it on the ADX 300. Moving on down, we have our fuel cap in here. If we just ignition and up, we can open it up and fuel up. On the left hand side we have our battery that's screwed in here, and like I've said, on the right hand side we have our little glove box with a USB charger inside. Moving on up to the handlebar, we have our kill switch, we have our engine start stop button. The mirrors are the same mirrors that we saw on the SYM Jet 14 Evo, which are really nice. They offer a good view behind you and do have a premium feel to them. In the middle we have a regular style motorcycle handlebar clamp. This should be good for putting accessories on. And on the left hand side we have our hazard lights, turn signal indicators, high and low beam, passing light or flash the brights, horn. Let's see how the horn sounds. Ignition on. Pretty strong horn on this one. And straight in the middle we do have a 7-inch TFT screen. Hopefully you can see something in this light, but let's power it on. We do have our idiot lights on the side, and this is how the screen looks. Believe me, it still has its protective foil on the front, so maybe that's why it's a little bit it's glossy. It's not as glossy in real life as it comes out on camera. We have our two buttons here, our mode and set button. If we click the mode, I'm just gonna go on this other side. If we click mode, we go from odometer to trip meter, to oil, to traction control on and off. If we hold S down, we should go into the menu then. Yes, we can, just like on the ADX, we have a lot of things we can set. We can choose different dashes, time, unit, language, and about. Let's see what kind of other designs we have. These are the same designs that are on the ADX 125. Moving on to the dash, we have basically just about all the information you can want. We have our engine temperature gauge, we have our rev counter, the time, speedometer, total mileage, like I've said, odometer, trip meter, oil meter, and TCS on and off. We have our battery voltage, and we have our fuel indicator right here. It's a beautiful display, and I like how they've integrated it into the front of the scooter, into the dashboard. It looks very premium, especially with the silver on around the side. It looks like an upmarket, very high-class machine. And just looking at everything in terms of fit and finish, the buttons look premium. I've never seen them on any other SYM. The finish on the handlebar is metallic but glossy at the same time. Even the screws here are absolutely beautiful, and these 4 screws can only be found here. That's it. The clamp, the way it's made, the entire machine has moved a lot up market, and honestly, like in terms of price, it's actually a little bit cheaper than the Cruise Sim 300, which is amazing. So that is a general presentation of the SYM ADX 300. There are a lot of things I like on it, and a couple of things I do not like. I like the premium feel, I like the design, I like how it looks. The seat, I don't know what's wrong with it, to be perfectly honest. There's something about it that I do not like. Maybe the way it looks, I don't know. But in terms of comfort, I cannot say if it's comfortable or not, because I haven't spent hours in the saddle. This thing has only 1 kilometer on the dash, and probably gonna put another 2 or 3 around here. So yeah, I can't really say about the seat that it's comfortable. I forgot to mention it comes with hand guards, these plastic hand guards. They're not going to protect your lever in case of a fall, but at least they are good for windbreakers, just like on my Zontes for a long distance road trip. I love the fact that it has a pretty solid mount for the windshield, so you can get an aftermarket windshield made. And generally the scooter looks good. For a 300cc scooter, it looks good. It's premium. It feels good. It has presence. A lot of things to love here. And the price should be around 5,000 euros, which is way below the ADV 350 from Honda. And I've ridden the ADV 350 from Honda. There's nothing special about that one either. The only special thing is the price. But enough blabbering and standing still. Let's take this thing for a little spin around the yard, at least try to get an idea of what this thing is made out of. Come on, let's go. Alright, riding the ADX 300, the hotly anticipated ADX 300. This is the scooter that I didn't wait for in the spring when I decided to buy the Zontes 350E. And a lot of people had questions. Why didn't you wait? Why didn't you didn't you want to see how the SYM, the ADX 300 was? Maybe it was a better option. Well, honestly, I do a lot of touring, on-road touring with Fred, my Zontes 350E, and I knew I wanted a big maxi scooter for on-road touring. And the Zontes had everything I wanted for on-road touring. But let's see how the ADX feels now that we actually get a chance to ride it. It's gonna be a ride, just a ride around the yard, so we're not gonna be able to really test out the limits of the machine, but it should give us a pretty good idea of what we're working with. So first off the bat, if the first second I get on it and I put my legs in this position, I can instantly feel the Joyride DNA. Let me just open this up because I'm steaming up. I can instantly feel the Joyride DNA. It's definitely the Joyride frame. It's the same feeling where I feel my feet are a little bit too high up and the seat is a little bit too low down. But unlike the Joyride, if we put our legs here, we have ample room to extend our legs and be comfortable on it. Although the problem I see now is my legs are sticking outside the scooter, so if you're riding this long distance and in the rain, you're probably not gonna get very good weather protection on your feet, so you better have some properly waterproof boots. But it is comfortable. And another thing that hits you immediately is just how premium the cockpit looks. I mean, from the smoked screen to the handlebars to the big 7-inch display, the way it's integrated into the dash, the controls look and feel premium. It's an upmarket machine. Everything is well and truly tied in together. It feels upmarket, it feels high class, like a proper premium machine from SYM. And considering it comes at a decently affordable price, that's a bit of a winner in terms of the scooter market. I mean, this thing feels as upmarket and as high class as the Yamaha X-Max, the Forza 350, the ADV 350 from Honda. I've ridden those scooters, and honestly, this feels just as good. This looks just as premium. So it's a bit of a winner in terms of like a scooter. The braking system, I know from the Joyride, the braking system is a very good braking system. The I really love the calipers. I really love the brake discs. The engine, the same. It's the same almost 300cc engine that SYM has been using for a long time. Very smooth power delivery, very good fuel economy, about 3.5 liters per 100 kilometers. So it seems to have it all, okay? It's good brakes, good engine, decent suspension, decent underseat storage, premium feel, an affordable price of around 5,000 euros. It's a decent machine. And if you really start pushing it, you can see just how maneuverable it is, and you can have quite a lot of fun with it and really enjoy this machine because it's awesome. What are you doing? He was parking. It's an awesome machine. You can have a lot of fun. The tires grip, the brakes are strong, the engine is torquey, and even you can take it on some gravel and let the electronics do their work and just jump it around on the bumps. Lean it on the gravel. It's stable, it grips, it's confidence inspiring. It seems to have everything. But why did I ask the question, is it a good ADX? Well, I think it's time we addressed the elephant in the room. This elephant. This is an interesting one. Let me just get everything off. You see, my problem with the ADX 300 is not that it's a bad scooter, but I don't think it's a good ADX. The problem is with SYM is they really knocked it out of the park with the first ADX, and they truly built something very special that honestly I don't think it's quite feasible and economical for them to build. So if the ADX 125 or the Husky 150, it's still available on your market, buy it quickly, because I don't know for how much longer they're gonna be selling this thing. And that's the problem. This thing is an absolute world-class act in terms of building a little 125cc scooter made for long distance travel. This thing, it's a good 300cc class scooter that you can take long distance. I'm gonna test that out as soon as this thing gets a license plate. You know we're gonna take it road tripping. There's no way in hell I'm leaving this one out. I am gonna road trip it. But is it a good ADX? That's the question. Thing is, in terms of braking, we see the same brakes as the JOYRIDE 300, the same suspension setup as the JOYRIDE 300 on which it's based, although I think it's a little bit softer. It might be a little bit softer sprung. It feels cushiony, but I have to take it on an off-road, on a dirt road to see if it bottoms out. Styling is very good, it's very premium, it looks and feels like a high-class upmarket scooter. So why do I keep saying that it's not a good ADX? Well, you see, in the world of scooters, we kind of have three big classes. You have your small 125 to 150, 160 cc's city scooters, which usually are about 120 kilograms, between 100 and 130 kilograms, somewhere in that region. Usually have from 8 or 9 horsepower to about 15 or 16, the most potent of them. Then you have your 300 to 400 cc maxi scooters, medium-sized maxi scooters. That's where this thing falls in. And then the top class, like the high-end premium maxi scooters, usually engines above 400 cc, something like 500, 600 cc's. Those were filled with your Bergmans, your Yamaha T-Maxes, Maxim TLs, your Kymco AK 550, stuff like that. This goes into the middle category, in the 300 to 400 cc class. And in that class, it's a good scooter. It's very decently priced, and it's a good scooter. This thing, on the other hand, goes into the small city scooter class. That means 125s, 150s, 160s, 110s, something like that. Usually they are between 100 and 130 kilograms. This thing is almost 160. That extra weight gives stability when you're on the wide open road. I went to Greece with this thing, and on the way back I had a couple of moments where it got very windy on the highway. On a small little city scooter that weighs 120 kilograms, you get blown around quite a bit. On this thing, not a problem. It was very stable, even when being hit with side winds. The front suspension. The front suspension is much more beefier than any scooter in its class. Plus, it's a lot thicker. Plus, you get these protective boots to protect your oil seals for the fork for when you take it off-roading. We have an oversized brake disc on the front. We have oversized brake pads. We have scooters in this class usually have between 5 liters and 9 liters of fuel. This thing has 15 liters of fuel. We have a very firm and solid mount for a windscreen, so you can put a bigger windscreen. Again, a very solid mount for a top case, so you can put a 45-liter top case. The seat, you get this much room for your passenger and this much room for your rider. Again, an emphasis on rider comfort for the long haul, for long distance. The transmission is way overbuilt for something that has just 12 horsepower. It's almost reminiscent of a 300cc transmission. The variator is oversized, the belt is a lot thicker. Again, to withstand long distance road tripping. Not to mention the underside protection. This thing is armored underneath. You can take it on the trails and you can bang it on rocks, on everything. It won't care. It's armored underneath. And its biggest trick, one of its biggest tricks, the rear monoshock suspension, which is supremely comfortable. It's the best suspension the best rear suspension I've ever felt on a small class scooter. It's like riding on a cloud, honestly. On the highway, on dirt roads, through the city, through potholes, whatever you throw at it, it's perfect. Also tires, this thing, both of them have off-road style tires. These ones are Chinese CST made. These ones are Kenda, a bit of a better brand. So you see what I'm talking about? This thing is a good 300cc class scooter, and I really have to take it on a long distance road trip. They're talking to each other. I really have to take it on a long distance road trip to see if there is substance to it, to see if it lives up to the ADX name. The ADX name that this thing launched. And I'm sorry, SYM, but when you make something as awesome as this, you better follow it up with something properly. I'm gonna wait passing judgment on it until I get to ride it at least for 2 days on a road trip, because as it sits, I am unsure that it lives up to the ADX name. I am unsure. So wait for the video when I get to actually take it out on a road trip, and then I'm gonna pass judgment on it. We're gonna revisit it after I've done a road trip with it. And like I've said, if you want something interesting to road trip with, the ADX 125 is the absolute pinnacle of what you can get in this size of scooter. And I'll be looking forward to the ADX 400, because that thing might actually be quite special with its in-frame engine and chain drive. That thing might be a return to form with the ADX name, where they really push the boundaries of what you can do with a medium-sized scooter. But until I get to ride this thing long distance, and until I get to see the ADX 400, thank you all so very much for watching. Hope this video was informative. Put all your questions down in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next one. Until next time, take care out there, everyone, and ride safe. Bye! Now, which one to take home? You knew I was gonna take this one. Come on, David! See ya!